Hello and welcome to New Central Television. I am Lekan, Onabanjo. The top stories at this hour. President Tinubu seeks way out of the new minimum wage issue, invites labor leaders for talks. Chief Justice of Nigeria swears in 22 new justices for the Court of Appeal. South Sudan security law sparks fear over rights abuses. Details to come your way shortly. We begin the news by telling you that the federal government of Nigeria is nearing an agreement on a new national minimum wage as President Bola Tinubu has invited the organized labor, including the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, to a meeting at the Aso Villa today. A source within the labor leadership, speaking anonymously, disclosed that President Tinubu is keen to resolve the ongoing discussions on the new minimum wage and has invited the joint union presidents to the meeting. The president is expected to make a decision on the 62,000 naira proposal from the government and private sector, as well as the 250,000 naira demand from the organized labor. This meeting comes about a month after President Tinubu announced in his Democracy Day speech on June 12, 2024, that an executive bill on the new national minimum wage for workers would soon be sent to the National Assembly for passage. Meanwhile, the Trade Union Congress is maintaining its stance on a minimum wage of 250,000 naira for Nigerian workers, despite the federal government's proposal of 62,000 naira. TUC President Festus Osifo disclosed that negotiations are ongoing with the government to reach an agreement. He assured that the minimum wage bill will be submitted to the National Assembly soon after consultations with stakeholders, including governors, local government chairmen, and the organized private sector. Osifo emphasized that the TUC is committed to ensuring a minimum wage that caters to the poorest of the poor. The Nigeria Labour Congress is also part of the negotiations. The TUC president urged patience, stating that the process may take time, but the outcome will be worth it. And now to discuss this further, I am joined by Benson Upah, Head of Information, Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you so much, Benson Upah, for joining us on the news.
Good evening.
Well, it's been meetings upon meetings to actually resolve this minimum wage issue, but the federal government has been accused of foot dragging. So how sincere has the government been in handling this matter? And do you think that this latest invitation for discussion will actually yield any tangible results?
Well, it has been in the public domain that government has not been very sincere about the process of negotiation. Nonetheless, we are open to further discussion. So we intend to honor the invitation.
Well, with the various spendings of governments that have been tagged frivolous in the last 1 year, is it true that the Nigerian government cannot sustainably pay the minimum wage that, of course, the organized labor is demanding for?
Of course, we have always maintained the position that government can more than pay what organized labor has asked for. In fact, if anything, organized labor has been very considerate, has been very patriotic, has been
Hello, Benson Upah, we can't hear you. Hello, Benson Upah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, I said, can you hear me?
Yes, please, go ahead.
I said that government can more than afford what organized labor has asked for. Government has been economical with the truth. What we have in the public domain is very clear. Government was declaring and sharing 700 billion in the past. Now they share 1.2 trillion. That is what has been declared. Okay? And beyond that, crude oil price is doing well in the international market. How much how much money do we make in that market every day? If they take a fraction of it and change it to naira, it becomes a lot of money. So government has money, has been playing around. Government has been playing around with money. It is quite sad that government is not keen on how we, the citizenry, fare.
Okay, now, of course, we're looking at a government that at this time is still servicing debts. There's a deficit in the budget. It has been borrowing and borrowing to actually keep up, and it seems as though revenue sources are not inadequate. Fine, we may say that, of course, monthly allocations have increased. And of course, we have the price of fuel in the global markets, also on the upside. But this is a government whose expenditure has been tilted towards debt servicing, and it seems not to have enough money to actually run. So the question is, how do you think the Nigerian government can actually raise the funds needed to actually pay the minimum wage, knowing fully well that the adjustments will have to cut across all cadres?
Except you intend to speak for the government, my explanation is quite clear. Government will always tell stories. There will always be justification from their side why they will not do the right thing. These loans that they have taken and are still taking, what have we seen? They take loans and some individuals pocket the loans, and the burden rests squarely on the rest of us, on the poor. This should stop. In fact, time has come to begin to try those who take loans. Do you understand? It is not fair. It is not fair that a few individuals mortgage our present and our future. It is absolutely a crime against the citizens of this country. So loans, a servicing of loans should not be an excuse. We should be able to know what these loans were taken for. Were they applied? Okay? So this is an entire issue. So it is quite obvious a few individuals in positions of opportunity just take advantage of the rest of us. So enough is enough.
What about, let's leave the federal government now, quickly look at the organized private sector and of course state government. So what about them? Because they've actually decried the inability to pay 250,000 naira if it is agreed. And they've actually talked about pre-existing economic challenges and lean fiscal position. So aren't you also concerned about them? Because we have some states that are even yet to pay 30,000 naira. And of course, the OPS, the organized private sector, are saying, hey, they cannot pay above 60,000. Are
you talking about the states, or you are talking about the organized private sector? I need to know.
Yes, I'm talking about
from when.
Yes, I'm talking about the OPS and even the state government at subnational level.
Because they've also said
they can't pay.
Hey, my friend, do not lump them. Listen. Do not lump them together. If you are talking about states are part of government. Do you understand that? States are part of government. We have just addressed the issue of government. And if you are taking me to another domain, which is the OPS, fine. I can speak to the issue of the organized private sector. And I want to tell you this, take this very clearly, that wages are not the problem of the organized private sector. The problems of the organized private sector are government's bad policies. Okay? Wages have not been increased in the domain of the organized private sector from June 2023 to today. Yet, how many organized private sectors have been wiped out? I want to tell you that by admission of Manufacturers Association, since the hike in 250% tariff in energy, at least 300 businesses have shut down. We are talking about a period of 2 months. 2-3 months. But before then, we had policies of removal of fuel subsidy,
okay,
which impacted negatively across all the domains of business, transportation, everything. And we also had the massive devaluation of the naira, which raised the debt burdens of these companies. We are an import-dependent economy. People took money, let's say, $20 million, $10 million, and had psychologically prepared to service this at a specific rate. But that went down the drain, and such entities are now confronted by a nightmare.
Okay.
The third policy, let me tell you what companies are exiting. Third policy, the massive increase in electricity tariff. High energy tariffs are not good for business anywhere. The fourth one, the interest rate, 26.5%. At the moment, inflation has surged past 33.7 now to 34%, and still moving.
Okay.
Those are the challenges of private sector. It's not wages. Once you take appropriate decisions and crank the economy, huge internal market with regional market.
Okay.
Businesses will more than be able to pay.
All right.
Let me take you back to 1981.
Benson Upah, we might not be able to extend the conversation, beyond what it is now. But then your summation has been really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Benson Upah, of course, Head of Information, Nigeria Labour Congress. It was nice talking to you. Thank you. Now, away from that, protesters have stormed Nigeria's Ministry of Justice headquarters in Abuja, the nation's capital, calling for an end to intimidation of journalists in the country. The demonstration, with the theme, "Don't Police My Speech," is advocating for press freedom, decriminalization of journalism, and protection of freedom of speech.
Earlier on this year, Chama Okoli, who gave just a simple review of a tomato paste that she got with her own funds, she was unjustly arrested. Daniel Ojukwu was arrested just a few months ago as well. In fact, he was abducted. His family didn't even know where they were. It's time for our speech to be safeguarded. It's time for us to ensure that we have the rights to freely express ourselves as guaranteed in the Nigerian Constitution, as well as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
To judicial matters now. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwoola, has inaugurated 22 new justices of the Court of Appeal on Wednesday. The inauguration will significantly raise the number of the court's serving justices to 88, up from its current 66. Let us now take a look at their names. Away from that, we talk about tackling food crisis now, and as part of efforts to address the food crisis situation in the country, the federal government is sending 60 trucks of fertilizer to each of the states of the federation. Each of the 109 senators will also receive 2 trucks of fertilizer for distribution to farmers in their constituents, while the 360 members of the House of Representatives will get 1 truck each to distribute in their constituencies. The Senate disclosed the plan on Tuesday while debating on the food crisis at plenary. The call followed a motion moved by Senator Sunday Karimi, representing Kogi West, and co-sponsored by Senator Ali Ndume of Borno South at the Tuesday plenary. The Senate is urging the government to expedite the process, and food inflation has skyrocketed to 40.66%, and prices of essential items have increased by between 100 and 300%. Nigeria's Minister of Works has given contractors handling the federal government's renewed Hope Emergency Project a 3-month ultimatum to deliver or face the risk of having their contracts revoked. The minister, in a meeting with some of the contractors in Abuja, urged them to commence work immediately on the sites. He accused some of them of frustrating the efforts of government, saying that despite collecting award letters for about 260 emergency projects, many of them have refused to honor their contractual obligations.
People are suffering. The president is having sleepless night how to help the people. And then we give people jobs and they are telling us stories. There have been jobs awarded by this ministry in the past, money paid, then the contractors help the money. Oh, there is insecurity. Did you not know about security situation before you got the job? Wednesday is the last day. Anybody taking job in this ministry, within these 7 years, by God's special grace, whether we agree or not, should be ready to do the job.
In health now, stakeholders in the Nigerian health sector have faulted the proposal by lawmakers to privatize teaching hospitals in the country with the aim of improving efficiency and ultimately advancing healthcare services at these facilities. Medical professionals from the Nigerian Medical Association and the National Association of Resident Doctors noted that while this move may truly improve services due to better funding, it will make healthcare unaffordable amidst rising inflation. News Central's Adeshewa Odushoga reports.
Rot in teaching hospitals of Nigeria's universities, sitting on the tripod of service delivery, training and research. These institutions sadly are losing their relevance in terms of medical excellence due to lack of funds for research, quality of training and service delivery. This has seen resident doctors embark on long strikes due to unpaid salaries, leaving their patient at the receiving end. As a result, lawmakers in the House of Representatives are proposing the privatization of teaching hospitals nationwide for proper management and funding. But this has been met with reactions.
If they privatize this and it's not done effectively, we don't have a very functional insurance system. It will be a disaster for the Nigerian patient, because that means that you'll be left alone to pick up the cost again out of pocket for very expensive diseases.
To try to even think about privatizing these institutions will be the greatest disservice anybody could do to this country, particularly to the health sector.
Also, the experience of past privatization schemes, as it was seen in the power sectors NEPA and telecommunications NITEL, has raised doubt and worries that this would lead to unaffordable tertiary healthcare services.
Who wants to buy these teaching hospitals anyway? What is the quantum of taxpayers' funds as well as national funds that have been pumped into these hospitals?
If it's well done, it may even result in better training, because you have better equipment to work with and to train with. You have better access to maybe records, and even you do more procedures more efficiently, so you can be able to establish local research.
While the Nigerian government is still struggling to meet the Abuja declaration of 15% budgetary allocation to the health sector, which has largely contributed to its poor state, the big question begging for answer is, will just placing tertiary Medicare in the hands of its private ownership be the magic wand the country's health sector needs? In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshewa Odushoga.
Watching News Central now, we go on a short break. We'll be back in a bit. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's bring you this election story. Plateau State has fixed October 9, 2024 for the conduct of local government elections. The chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission disclosed this on Wednesday during an ongoing meeting with leaders of political parties held at the Commission's headquarters in Jos, the state capital. The state INEC chairman said the council poll would be conducted across the 17 local government areas of the state, which are currently under the management of Transition Implementation Committee Chairman All prospective candidates are expected to obtain nomination forms in respect of the election into the offices of chairmen and councillors of the 17 local government councils from PLASIEC headquarters from Thursday, August 1, 2024 to Monday, August 5, 2024. Away from that, the long queues for petrol have persisted in the nation's capital, Abuja, while some motorists who spoke to News Central have complained about the long hours they have spent on the queues. Others say the situation is gradually improving. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
In what has remained a persistent recurring problem, the queues have refused to go away. Angry car owners pour their frustrations on each other. This is the busiest NNPC fuel station here at the Central Business District here in Abuja. I've spoken to the manager in charge who says he has a lot of trucks loaded before and that he has been receiving supply and he has been selling and he continue to sell up to tomorrow morning.
It's a very bad experience. It's not easy to buy fuel in Abuja now. These days, it's not easy to buy fuel. I've been in this queue for almost, I can say, for over 2 hours. It's not that I'm even getting very close to the filling station to buy fuel. The price is, I don't know the price for now because I didn't buy fuel since last week. So I don't know the price, but all I know is that I bought fuel on my way coming back from work today. I bought it at 10,000 naira. I bought 10,000 naira fuel, which at the rate of 1,000 naira per liter. Yes, I bought somewhere around Lugui.
When?
I bought, yeah, today. Wow. Today, I bought 10,000 naira fuel, which I bought it for each liter for 1,000 naira in a filling station.
2 weeks now, I've not fuel by tank, and the cost of fuel is very, very expensive. Sometimes you buy fuel 1,200 per liter just for you to go to office and go back home. I spent almost 1 hour in the queue without fueling, but I believe by God's grace, in a few minutes I'll get the fuel.
It's been so difficult, so hectic, my brother. I've never seen this one for a very long while. Yesterday, I bought fuel. I was at the queue for 7 good hours trying to get fuel. Today I'm back again looking for fuel. So you see how terrible it can be. One spending almost hours at fuel queue. It's really not funny anymore. The price in NNPC here is the same price. They are still this in 617. In other fuel station is higher. So in terms of pricing, nothing has changed. But difficulties in getting it is the problem now.
Yeah, it's not a good experience, but I think today is because the queue is not much like yesterday. It was worse. Yesterday I was not able to get fuel, but today I spent I think like an hour and 30 minutes. I'm about to enter. So today is more better than other days back, like 2-3 days back.
Formerly we used to have a lot of passengers. At times if I come out in the morning from 7, at times I even find it difficult to come down to eat food because when you want to go and eat food, you see another person flagging you down. But this time around, you have a lot of time. At times, even you sleep for 1 hour or 2 hours. So it has not been easy.
We have heard them all, and it is hoped that this plea to the government will lead to the end of this scarcity soon. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Emmanuel Bagudu.
Disability rights advocates have called for the stricter sanctions against persons and agencies that flout the law against the discrimination of persons living with disabilities. This was as the Nigeria Accelerates Disability Inclusion in Emergency Forum meeting, which is holding in Abuja. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu again tells us more.
It's been 6 years since the passage of Nigeria's Act Against Discrimination of Persons Living with Disabilities. Stakeholders in appraising strides made since the passing of the Act Against the Discrimination of Persons Living with Disabilities in 2018 converged on the nation's capital, Abuja, for the Accelerate Disability Inclusion in Emergency Forum. The platform comprised of disability rights advocates, federal lawmakers, and stakeholders from the disability community in Nigeria.
Persons with disabilities are over 30 million in Nigeria and face several challenges every day, including discrimination, stigmatization,
lack of physical access, lack of employment, lack of educational opportunities, and a lot of issues in our health system.
This program should provide discounted and free transportation vouchers, passes, and dedicated transportation services to ensure affordable and accessible transportation options for persons with disabilities.
Things would have improved in the sense that we have gone on media, we have put out articles, we have called on the president, we have called on the ministries that are responsible to work on accessible transportation system that will serve our community. But it's been 1 year and nothing has been done. I dey lie. Exactly, nothing has been done.
The meeting is aimed at finding solutions to the widespread challenges affecting people with disabilities, ranging from lack of inclusion, discrimination, lack of access to education, amongst others.
Just recently I came from an oversight of one of the health institutions, and I had to call the engineer constructing one of the blocks in the hospital to hold the construction because there was no access for people with disability to access the world.
The issues that they faced during COVID were exponentially, I don't want to say more, but different than you would imagine your fellow neighbors were going to experience when you had to be on lockdown as well. So it moved from that to being sort of in response to the removal of fuel subsidies. While there was still efforts going on to address the COVID issues that were compromising persons with disabilities, then in comes the fuel subsidy removal. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody or any of that, but it did cause an emergency.
We started supporting nano and small business owners, and what we did this time around is we set up an ad hoc to focus on people with disabilities that own nano businesses. We partnered with TUC Bank to help them with a business plan, open bank accounts, and we gave them a seed capital of 100,000 naira. That's in Kaduna North. Of course, I would like that replicated at a higher level. I think what we need is more compassion, as I said, and the chairman is an experienced member, and I'm hoping that with my position as chairman banking, we could put some pressure on the commercial banks to be a model, a pilot of ensuring that public buildings have the necessary facilities like wheelchair ramps, signages, and audio, just so we could make it easier for our brothers and sisters.
The forum is expected to make far-reaching recommendations that will help the review and amendment of Nigeria's law against the discrimination of persons with disabilities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Coming up on the news. Guinea junta arrests civil society leaders in latest crackdown. We'll bring you details in a short while. Don't go away. The news continues in West Africa, where the leader and an official from one of Guinea's last vocal civil society groups opposing the ruling junta have been arrested. According to the National Front for the Defense of the Constitution, a pro-democracy movement, Omar Sila and Mamadou Bilabo were detained late on Tuesday by a group of heavily armed hooded soldiers, some in civilian clothes, in what the group described as kidnapping. These arrests are the latest in a series of detentions of opposition figures since the military, led by Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, seized power in September 2021. The civil society collective remains one of the last opposition voices striving to garner support for a return to civilian rule in Guinea, a country with a tumultuous political history. We now head to Southern Africa, where tragedy struck near Johannesburg, South Africa on Wednesday when a minibus taking children to school overturned and burst into flames after being hit by another vehicle, killing 12 children. The driver of the minibus also died, and 7 other children were rushed to the hospital, according to officials in Johannesburg's Gauteng province. In a statement, the Gauteng government said it could not immediately provide the ages of the children, but noted that most were from a primary school, typically attended by students aged between 6 and 13. Despite having one of the most developed road networks on the continent, South Africa also has one of the worst road safety records, attributed in part to reckless driving and unroadworthy vehicles. A judge in South Africa has ruled that the negligence of 2 officials in Gauteng province was to blame for the deaths of some 140 psychiatric patients who died in 2016 after being moved from hospital to unlicensed facilities. In the tragedy that has gripped the country for years, at least 144 patients died due to pneumonia, dehydration, diarrhea, and food aspiration.
Proceeded to terminate the contract between Life Sidimeni Care Center and the Gauteng Department of Health, despite numerous expert advice and warnings from the professionals in mental health and stakeholders. Effectively, Mr. Dani Mahlangu and Dr. Manamela created the circumstances in which the deaths.
The Zimbabwean government, through its Ministry of Health and Child Care, is set to introduce a universal hepatitis B vaccine for all newborn babies, a move to address the spread of hepatitis B. This initiative aims to prevent the transmission of the viral infection from infected mothers to their infants. According to Zimbabwe Health and Child Care Minister Douglas Mubenshora, the implementation of the hepatitis B vaccine is also a crucial step towards the triple elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, syphilis, and hepatitis B. The virus, which causes the illness, is primarily transmitted through contact with infected bodily fluids, such as blood, semen, or saliva. Many people with hepatitis B don't show any symptoms. And from other continents, we tell you that as NATO celebrates 75 years of collective defense, a cloud of uncertainty hangs on its future. The Defense Alliance meets with the agenda to focus on reassuring Ukraine of its alliance and its unwavering support. Foreign and defense ministers, as well as other senior officials from NATO countries and the partners, who are also present to show support. Meanwhile, analysts have said that although the NATO summit will try to demonstrate strength and unity amid rising security threats from Russia and China, the internal rifts among its member states will be hard to mask. To discuss this further, I'm joined by a professor of African politics and international relations, University of Pretoria, Christopher Isike. Christopher Isike, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you around. So how would you describe the overall record of NATO in the last 75 years of its existence? Would you say it has been successful in meeting its mandate, or it has actually failed? Let's start from there.
Well, in general, NATO's history has been marked by, some significant achievements in maintaining peace and stability in Europe. In reinventing itself and adapting to new security challenges since the end of the Cold War, and then also in terms of fostering international cooperation. However, it has also faced some notable challenges, particularly in dealing with complex conflict and maintaining unity amongst its diverse membership, like you talked about earlier. And if I'm to talk about some of its notable successes, you look at the way that it used deterrence and collective defense during the Cold War, deterring Soviet aggression and preventing the spread of communism in Europe. The alliance maintained a strong defensive posture that contributed to the eventual dissolution of the Soviet Union. And again, if you look at what is happening in Ukraine, there's a unity against Russian aggression, which is reminiscent of the Cold War, which is keeping them together. You also want to look at Article 5 that it invoked following the 9/11 attacks, which helped to support the U.S. in its fight against terrorism. the way that they've also managed crisis and conflicts, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Kosovo. And I think the most important one I would want to highlight in terms of the progress they've made or achievement is partnerships and the expansion, how they've been able to expand the NATO from original to 31 now, with a few countries still willing to join. And of course, the partnership programs they have, various partnership programs such as the Partnership for Peace to build a cooperative security relationship with member countries, and the way they're relating with Ukraine, with Japan, New Zealand, the Republic of Korea, and Australia are important, factors in this regard. But then when you come to the failures, you also want to look at how they've mismanaged Afghanistan, the crisis in Libya, and then, of course, the internal divisions that you mentioned earlier, the ongoing issues with disagreements among member states.
Hello, Christopher.
Priorities in defense spending among the different countries and body sharing have been an issue for them.
Of course, we see that there's a lot on NATO's plate as we speak, and we also see them morphing into becoming more formidable in the coming years. But Christopher, can NATO continue to be an effective institution in a world where there are international actors like China and Russia? Of course, you see these two countries, they are increasingly becoming a global threat, not in a very terrible way anyway, but everyone is trying to protect their interests. So as NATO is trying as much as possible to be a defense mechanism for other countries that might not have that capability to do that, how effective do you think they would be over time and the ability to also sustain their influence?
Well, like I said, NATO continues to evolve. Addressing, some of the challenges that I mentioned earlier will be crucial for its effectiveness and relevance. But it's commendable how its mission and scope have evolved from time, from a focus on collective defense against the Soviet Union to addressing, new challenges and a wide range of, global security challenges, including terrorism, cyber threats, and hybrid warfare. So I think that it would remain a cornerstone of transatlantic security and defense, providing essential deterrence, crisis management, and cooperative security capability. So its adaptability to new threats and its role in promoting democratic values and stability, I think will contribute to its relevance in the 21st century.
Okay, so earlier on you talked about NATO's influence in Afghanistan, Libya, and some other countries. Would you say that the basis for their own, I don't want to use the word incursion, or their intervention in these countries was practically based on personal or parochial interests rather than, having a nationalistic approach or maybe, trying to make the country better? Because NATO has actually been accused of venturing, of course, with the West, venturing into territories that have some certain benefits, and that is why they moved into those countries. So I'd like you to just talk on that. Let's understand where NATO stands when it comes to intervening in other countries when they have crisis.
Okay, I didn't hear the last part of your question, but I take it that you want us to talk a bit more about its failures in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So look, it's of course the countries within NATO, especially the Western Europe, former colonial masters, always act out of their own, national interest and do not often factor internal dynamics of countries that they get into. And the Afghanistan case is a good example where they failed, where, of course, they were able to topple the Taliban regime and disrupting Al-Qaeda, but in terms of establishing peace and stability in that region, they could not. And the way that they withdrew their forces in 2021 also highlights some of the significant shortcomings that you are mentioning in terms of their inability to read the room and act in the common interests of even countries that they go into, understanding that the well-being of those countries will also impact on their own well-being, especially in terms of collective peace and security in the world.
All right, Christopher Isike, it was nice talking to you. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you for having me.
We go on a short break now. We'll bring you business and sports news in a bit. Don't go away. In business, the U.S. International Development Finance has approved a loan of as much as $99 million to help finance Mozambique's first utility-scale wind power project. DFC will also provide $80 million in political risk assurance to Global Africa, which is developing the 120 megawatts project near Namacha in the south of the nation, the lender said in an emailed statement on Tuesday. The project will require a total of about $268 million in funding, according to the DFC's website. The Southern African nation of more than 33 million people is mostly reliant on a single hydroelectric dam for its power generation. Let's also tell you that crude oil prices steadied on Wednesday as the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, kept its growth forecast for oil demand unchanged for this year and the next, while U.S. crude and petrol inventories likely fell last week. Brent futures were down 11 cents or 0.1% at $84.55 a barrel at 12:12 GMT after falling 1.3% in the previous session. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 7 cents or 0.1% to $81.34 a barrel after falling 1.1% in the previous session. OPEC maintained its 2024 and 2025 global oil demand growth forecasts at 2.25 million barrels per day and 1.85 million barrels per day, respectively, it said in a monthly report on Wednesday. In the world of sports, a boxing promoter, Bernard Otonla, has emphasized the importance of bringing professional boxing back to its elite status after several years of stagnation. Otonla stated this at a press conference to announce the upcoming Chaos in Lagos card set to take place at the Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium, Surulere, on July 21, 2024. The event will feature 10 bouts on the card, with the national super welterweight title up for grabs. Otonla and welterweight challenger Oluwaseun Mustafa will be fighting for the welterweight title and spoke to our reporter Oluwatobi Ayinde about their expectations and preparations for the event.
Lagos is a boxing tournament targeted at showcasing boxers to the world. That's one. Secondly, on the other hand, we want people to really understand boxing as an activation agency in a way.
I'm fully prepared, fully prepared. My opponent should get ready. It's going to be a war.
Now, Nigerian Premier League side Kwara United have signed forward Ifeanyi Aguero Oda and defender Anthony Anueke ahead of the 2024-2025 NPFL season. Oda will be joining the Harmony Boys, having won the NPFL title with Enugu Rangers in the 2023-2024 season. The former under-23 international has previously played for Nigerian top-flight sides Lobi Stars and Akwa United. Meanwhile, Anueke, who is also a former under-23 international, makes the move to Ilorin from Akwa United. The two players are expected to be unveiled this week at the team secretariat. Kwara United, who finished 13 in the NPFL last season, will resume pre-season training on the 15th of July 2024 in preparation for the 2024-2025 NPFL season. Finally, we tell you that Novak Djokovic is through to the semi-finals of Wimbledon after Alex de Minaur withdrew from the last 8 tie because of a hip injury. The Australian 9th seed was scheduled to take on 24-time Grand Slam champion Djokovic on Wednesday in the second match on centre court. The 37-year-old Djokovic has been handed a walkover and will face either Italy's Lorenzo Musetti or American 13th seed Taylor Fritz in the semi-finals. He has now qualified for a 13th Wimbledon semi-final, a joint open-era record with Federer. The Serb stays on course for an 8th title at Wimbledon, which will move him level with Roger Federer. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our major stories. President Tinubu seeks way out of the new minimum wage issue, invites labor leaders for talks. Chief Justice of Nigeria swears in 22 new justices for the Court of Appeal. Finally, we told you that South Sudan security law sparks fear over rights abuses. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. And do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.